Since the absolute beginning of time, since the very first little girl ever existed, there have always been dolls. But they were always forever just baby dolls. The absolute reality was that little girls could only ever play at being mothers. That is, until Barbie changed absolutely everything.
And the result of that massive change? Barbie Land. It's this perfect pink world where women achieve, well, everything. Thanks to Barbie, the dolls believe that all the problems of feminism and equal rights have been completely 100% solved. Every single Barbie has her own house, her own career, and she literally lives her best day every single day.
But this flawless existence shatters in a massive record-scratch kind of moment. Right in the middle of a perfectly choreographed dance party, stereotypical Barbie suddenly blurts out this irrepressible thought of dying. The music completely halts, the dancing stops, and that perfect illusion just cracks. The fallout is immediate. The very next morning, she wakes up to a cold shower, a burnt waffle, and the horrifying realization that she is malfunctioning. For the very first time ever, her heels are actually touching the ground. Flat feet! And even worse, she spots cellulite. So, seeking answers for this bizarre malfunction, she goes to visit Weird Barbie. And Weird Barbie explains that a sad girl in the real world is playing with her, and it's opening up a rift in the continuum between their two worlds. This sad girl's human feelings and complicated thoughts are now actively intertwining with stereotypical Barbie's perfect dollness. To fix this giant tear in the continuum, Barbie, along with Ken, who actually stows away in the back seat, has to travel to the real world. They embark on this incredibly elaborate multi-vehicle progression. We're talking a sports car, to a speedboat, to a rocket ship, a tandem bike, a camper van, and finally, rollerblading straight into Los Angeles. Once they hit California, the contrast in what they experience is just stark. Barbie feels immediately conscious, ogled, and totally ill at ease, noting this distinct undertone of violence from the men around her. Ken, on the other hand, he experiences the exact opposite. He feels admired, respected, and totally empowered as he discovers the male-dominated wonders of the patriarchy. Barbie tracks down the girl she assumes is playing with her at a local junior high. But instead of a warm welcome and a hug, she is just verbally destroyed by Sasha. Sasha straight up calls her a fascist, accusing Barbie of setting the feminist movement back 50 years and destroying girls' innate sense of worth with unrealistic physical ideals.
Meanwhile, the executives at Mattel catch wind of the situation. Two life-size dolls rollerblading through Santa Monica? That is a catastrophic scenario for the company's bottom line. So what's their frantic solution? They try to lure Barbie to their corporate headquarters so they can literally lock her back inside a giant life-sized box to restore order.
But smelling the Proustian scent of the box, Barbie realizes she is in serious danger. She flees the CEO, vaulting over office cubicles in this frantic escape through the mothership, and ultimately dives into a getaway car driven by Sasha's mother, Gloria. During this wild, high-speed chase away from the Mattel suits, a huge realization drops. Barbie discovers that it wasn't Sasha playing with her at all. It was Gloria. It was actually Gloria's sad, complicated drawings. Things like irrepressible thoughts of death Barbie and crippling shame Barbie, born from her own loneliness that caused the rift and brought them together in the first place. So, Barbie, Gloria, and Sasha flee Mattel and head straight back to Barbie Land to make things right. But when they get there, they find a horrifying transformation. Ken got there first, and he's infected the entire realm with his newly discovered concept of patriarchy. The iconic dream houses have been aggressively and honestly, hilariously rebranded into Mojo Dojo Casa houses. Ken's ideology takes over with terrifying speed. He has brainwashed all the Barbies into subservient, brewski beer-fetching roles, totally stripping them of their decision-making power. And to consolidate his takeover, Ken announces a special election in just 48 hours to alter the Constitution and make Kendom permanent. Completely stripped of her dream house, her perfect life, and her confident identity, Barbie just totally breaks down. She falls to her absolute lowest physical and emotional state, crying on the ground, overwhelmed by the change. She's begging to just be left alone in her messed-up world. It is the absolute literal embodiment of Depression Barbie. Seeing Barbie in this deep despair, feeling like she just isn't good enough for anything, Gloria steps in. She delivers a powerful, really impassioned speech about the massive cognitive dissonance and the impossible contradictions required to be a woman in society.
She outlines the exhaustion of tying yourself into knots, pointing out that not only are women expected to do everything perfectly, but somehow everything is always their fault.
And this raw honesty, it becomes the ultimate turning point. Gloria's impassioned speech instantly snaps writer Barbie right out of her brainwashed trance. It proves a super powerful concept. Simply giving voice to the cognitive dissonance of being a woman actively robs the patriarchy of its power. And it turns out that's exactly the key to waking up the rest of the Barbies.
Regrouping at Weird Barbie's house, the unbrainwashed Barbies formulate a highly precise, three-step plan to deprogram their friends and take their government back. First, they're going to act helpless and confused. Second, they'll reject the Kens' advances to hurt their egos. And third, they're going to turn the Kens against each other.
The Barbies execute this final stage completely flawlessly. They pretend to be totally enraptured as the Kens stare deeply into their eyes and play Matchbox 20 on the acoustic guitar for hours. Then, at the absolute peak of the Kens' happiness, the Barbies abruptly reject them, texting other Kens to spark these intense, petty jealousies.
And man, those wounded egos trigger a massive, slow-motion beach-off battle. The Kens go to all-out war with tennis rackets and volleyballs. They completely turn on each other, entirely distracting themselves from the morning's constitutional vote that was supposed to make Kendom permanent.
So, while the Kens are completely distracted, busy fighting and performing this incredibly elaborate musical dance number on a soundstage, the Barbies take back their power. They successfully vote to reinstate their original constitution, restoring the Supreme Court and officially saving Barbie Land from becoming Kendom forever.
In the aftermath of all this, a sobbing Ken confesses that he doesn't actually know who he is without the warmth of Barbie's gaze. He feels like he only exists as Barbie and Ken. But this leads to a really profound realization. With Barbie's encouragement, he finally understands that his identity doesn't depend on her or his mink coat or even his job at Beach. He realizes, simply and powerfully, Ken is me. Right around then, the Mattel executives finally arrive in Barbie Land to close up the portal. But witnessing the restored balance, they actually accept the idea of letting the Barbies live freely. The CEO even enthusiastically greenlights Sasha's pitch for an ordinary Barbie, realizing there is immense value in a doll that just wants to get through the day feeling kind of good about herself.
Still unsure of her own ending, though, and feeling like she really isn't stereotypical Barbie anymore, Barbie speaks with the ghost of her creator, Ruth Handler. Ruth explains the beautiful, highly uncomfortable reality of being human. She points out that while ideas like Barbie live forever and have no end, humans have a definite, single ending.
Faced with this profound truth, Barbie makes a choice. Deciding she wants to be a part of the people that make meaning, rather than just the thing that is made, she takes Ruth's hands. Barbie closes her eyes, feels the wind, listens to the heartbeat of the real world, and actively chooses to become human. Now fully human, wearing her Birkenstocks, and officially going by the name Barbara, she steps confidently into a Los Angeles office building. But instead of applying for a CEO position, she walks right up to the receptionist and announces with a massive smile, "I'm here to see my gynecologist." It's the ultimate embrace of messy, beautiful human reality. But it leaves us with a lingering question. If perfection means being trapped in a box, what messy, ordinary realities are you willing to embrace to truly live?